So this brings us to our next question for you, Dr. Ahmed. What is the biggest challenge, opportunity for scale-up on anticipatory action in Eastern Africa? And what can actors do?
Thank you very much, Jemimah. Again, let me start. I wish to start with opportunities, really, and I'll come to the challenge. If you see around, particularly for Eastern Africa or Africa in general, there is a realization that business as usual is not working. I think that's very important. We wait until disasters strike and we respond. That's cost here in terms of lives, livelihoods lost, livelihood assets lost, and so on. So that realization is, I think, a very good opportunity for us and explore what ways can work. Particularly a front-loading approach, and acting in anticipation of a disaster really can make a difference, including risk or impact of climate change. In connection to that one, I think the global frameworks, be it the Sendai framework or the Paris Agreement, or our regional strategies as intergovernmental body, as East Africa, national strategies, all those are, I think, opportunities, I believe, that we can embank anticipatory actions on. There's also a growing partnerships, including Anticipation Hub. I'm very happy to hear, Lydia, that we are at 88. Maybe we joined when we were 80 something, so it's growing by the day. So that networking, that partnership of institutions is really what we have as a great opportunity. And finally, maybe as a regional entity again, we have embarked on developing a regional roadmap for forecast-based anticipatory actions and financing in partnership with FRC, WFP, FAO, Kenya Red Cross, and National Red Cross Societies and others. These are, I think, opportunities that we can leverage on to advance the anticipatory actions agenda, which basically is investing well in time so that we save lives, but also livelihoods and assets of our communities. Coming to the challenge very quickly, Jemimah, I think there is a structural and programming challenges, I believe, when it comes to anticipatory actions, starting with the willingness of national governments, stakeholders, partners, and donors to invest based on a forecast, in anticipation of a disaster. Before you see livestock dying in masses, people start migrating due to the droughts, as we see currently, and so on. That requires really a change, in structural change, as well as programmatic changes, from more humanitarian emergency-based to now more front-loading and anticipatory early action-based approaches. That's one most important thing. The other is also availability and accessibility of funding opportunities, especially the global funding opportunities for anticipatory actions. This can be adaptation fund or other global funds for anticipatory actions. I think something has to be done towards that, because currently it's more project focused. It's more focused on the business as usual operations. So there must be a way we engage also these multilateral funding entities to be able to understand and also buy in the idea of anticipation anticipatory actions. By the way, it's not different from adaptation or durable solutions or resilience or so on. So it's a matter of programming. So it's a matter of putting into their agendas and their programs for funding. Those are the 2 or 3 challenges which I see. Just let me add one point, Jemimah, if that's okay. I think we all know that this week the UN IPCC has released their reports, but last year also there was a UN report which indicates that some 58 countries, particularly least developed countries in the world, requires around 70 billion USD every year through 2030 to be able to adapt to the climate change and such recurrent disasters in the world. So I think this itself is underfunded, including the humanitarian emergencies. So the challenges, I think, are formidable, but with those opportunities which I mentioned earlier, I think we'll be able to advance this idea and this agenda of front-loading approaches and managing risks rather than managing disasters. Yeah, thank you.
Maybe just a quick additional question. What can other actors learn from across what you've mentioned, the opportunities and some of the challenges that you've experienced or identified within the Eastern African region.
Yes, I think I can mention, Jemimah, the engagements that we have with EU, for example, the European Union, particularly under the ECHO. We were actually, I was a panelist, and I was challenging the audience that unless we consider our humanitarian programming, unless we see a way to allocate some part of the humanitarian emergency funds for anticipatory actions, we will be moving in circles. We have been operating humanitarian emergencies over the last 5, 6, 7 decades. Then the trend will not be changing unless we do something about it. I understand the humanitarian emergency is underfunded, but still from that, we have to consider national governments in terms of their budgetary allocations has to consider such front-loading approaches if we have to turn the tide. Otherwise, the business as usual will not take us far. We'll be just, in the same place. We'll not be moving forward. The number of people who will be affected will not be reducing. As we see, the trend is just increasing. The number of people, food insecure people, people who need humanitarian emergencies and so on is increasing. So that tells us something has to change, Jemimah. And I think one thing that has to change is the way we do business, our programming. Bring anticipatory actions, bring front-loading approaches, invest more on DRR, and so on. That would really change the tide. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. I think we've also, as a humanitarian organization within Kenya, we've noticed the trends, the increasing trends, the reducing resources to respond, and anticipatory action, focus-based action and financing is one of the approaches that we are taking up to support the humanitarian response within Kenya. And as you've mentioned, the opportunities, the linkages within the global frameworks, the regional frameworks, and also the national frameworks. And you've mentioned the roadmap. I think these linkages and the information flow across and the exchanging in experiences and learning is quite important. And as you've mentioned, we have participated in the regional development of the regional framework for FBF, the focus-based financing. And one of the things that we have purpose to do as Kenya Red Cross is to downscale this so that we'll be developing a national framework for focus-based financing, and also increasing awareness within the governments, within other organizations that are supporting adaptation and DRR. As you mentioned, they're not very far from what we're trying to do, how they can adopt this as an approach within their structural planning, their normal programming, and their normal way of life. As you've mentioned, we cannot continue business as usual. So we've seen some of the biggest challenges from your conversation, from the respondents from the poll. So Lydia, if you can help us with the Padlet. So from the audience, based on what we've seen on the poll, based on what Dr. Ahmed has shared, in your organizations and with your expertise, what can you offer to help overcome these challenges?
Great, so I hope everybody can access the Padlet. Please let us know if you're having any problems. But also, I mean, we really want this to be a very open discussion. So please, if anybody would like to reflect on anything that was said, some of these challenges that were raised, any activities that you're working on in the region or globally that could support the efforts in the region, we'd love to hear from you. We really want this to be an open conversation. So if you don't feel comfortable with the Padlet, then please go ahead and raise your hand. We'd love to hear your voice and see your face. So please do just go ahead. I see now there are some suggestions coming in via the Padlet. So the biggest challenge around forecasting for early action climate change issues. Don't know if anybody wants to expand on that. If anybody that added that one would like to explain further. Great. I can also share the screen, Jemimah, at some point, but there's not so many additions just yet. Would anybody like to reflect or unmute? Anybody have a question they'd like to ask to Ahmed? Is anybody working on anything in the region that they'd like to share? Oh, I see Amdihun from Save the Children. Yes, please come ahead.
Thank you very much, and thanks Ahmed for the conversation, for the discussion. Yeah, I just want to reflect on the gaps that Ahmed mentioned when it comes to forecasting. IGAT is really doing a wonderful job in terms of providing climate forecast, and now you're going even further and translating that impact into forecast into like consequences in terms of production, or in terms of, for example, vegetation, etc. So you have like a multi kind of layer or multi hazards, analysis. But as you said, it's still information is there, but the reaction is very low. Maybe one of the things that we observe that probably we need to go a little bit further in terms of analyzing the impact. So for example, we need to translate the forecast into like consequences at the household level. So for example, Save the Children, we are scaling up the household economy approach, for those who know the approach, which help us to actually to translate the forecast into economic consequences at the household level. What does it mean in terms of impact, in terms of access to food, access to income, how much the household is likely to lose? When you put it in terms of figures and like in economic value, sometimes people tend to be more reactive and more responsive to it. So the tool, the household economy tool, help us to really translate the impact at the household level, but also give us a little bit more details in terms of who among the population is going to be affected. The framework categorized the household into 4 categories. So very poor, middle, and better off, for instance. So we'll give you who exactly among the population is likely to be affected or most affected, how much assistance will be needed, like what is the gap in terms of income or food that household will need, but also we'll give you when exactly that assistance really need to be provided. So we provide a seasonal analysis on when that kind of deficit or when the assistance need to be provided. It will also tell us what could be the window of opportunity, because for early action, window of opportunity is a very key issue. And this is one of the challenges that we have. A lot of the projects we have around the region, we face some challenges with the triggers. So we either trigger too late, or maybe, we're missing, like the window opportunity and so on. So the HEA help us to identify that window of opportunity, and the approach overall, it provides you more like a predictive analysis. So I think for us, we believe that this is one of the tools probably can help us really address some of the challenges. And we have a few projects going on. We're trying to increase the coverage, the household economic coverage in East Africa. We have a project in Kenya and Somalia. Ethiopia now is almost, we achieved 100% coverage is HEA. And we're looking at expanding to other areas. So yeah, I think this is one thing maybe probably we can contribute with, and we'll be happy to really join this conversation and share learnings as we go, and we learn from from you, and also maybe you can get some inputs and feedback from this community of practice. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Ajun. That's really useful. Would Jemimah or Ahmed like to reflect on that, or would anybody else like to come in and reflect on that, or anything else that they heard throughout the conversation, any of the challenges you're experiencing? I'm seeing a few opportunities come in. I see Reap has added something there. I don't know, Gavin, if you'd like to share or reflect. Yeah, all very welcome. We have 15-20 minutes, so we're really open the floor to you. It's not so often that we get to have all of these exciting people around the table. So yeah, please do come in. We want to hear from you. Great, Gavin, come in.
Sure, I'll just be very brief. I think this is really helpful to understand better like the regional context. I don't know the regional context well enough, and that's one thing that I would really like to work on, maybe with the Anticipation Hub, just to continue to document some of those good practices. Anticipation Hub has a very good page to share those different resources. But if there's any resources that you have, I don't know what would be the best way. Maybe you have some ideas, Lydia, but just that we keep on sharing these resources, because what we've noticed is there's a lot of lessons that are raised here and elsewhere. And when we do have countries or organizations in other parts of the world, we can say, look, this is how they dealt with it in East Africa. So just putting it out on the table about that particular point, with some of the points that were raised this afternoon.
Wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And we've been discussing, Ahmed, about capturing some of this through a blog post. So that's something that we'll definitely be working on, and that's something that we can do with the other agencies. I think Amdihun also, Save the Children, has one in preparation on the household economic analysis. So economy analysis, apologies. And yeah, so definitely the hub can be a space for capturing this learning. We'd really love to do that, and then especially at this regional level. Yeah, we'd love to capture those learnings and challenges, definitely. Anybody else like to share anything or have any questions for Ahmed or Jemimah?
Lydia, allow me to add on something as part of the audience also.
Yeah.
I think one of the key things that the gentleman from Save the Children has mentioned is data. And you working within community level, we rarely are able to access this data to support the triggers, to support the development of the actions and when the actions should be done. So I think it's important, even as the different organizations working in DRR and climate change adaptation, to work closely with the national meteorological and hydrological authorities within the different countries, to work with the regional actors, to work with other organizations at national context, to be able to synthesize the information in terms of impacts of the different hazards, the different disasters. And from this, we are able to generate and develop the different triggers and different sets of actions that we need to do in terms of anticipatory action. I know in Kenya, we've developed an early action protocol, which was developed in a multi-stakeholder setup, where we brought in the national government representatives from the county government, which is the subnational level in Kenya. We brought in the different NGOs. I'm not sure whether SAVE was there, but we brought in different NGOs and UN organizations to try and understand what are our key climate risks, what are some of the impacts that we see. We developed triggers based on the data that was available, and developed some of the actions that we need to do as early actions. Once we get the climate information, we also identified which sets of climate information are important to be able to activate these triggers. And currently we developed one for floods and droughts, and we are currently simulating how the early action protocols will work. And I think one of the key things that we have noted is, I know we mentioned coordination as one of the challenges. And one of the things that we have noted within the activation and the simulation of the early action protocols is that the government, once they see what you're doing and once they see proof of concept, they're willing to join in. But as Dr. Ahmed rightly mentioned, structurally, we are not yet there. Even within the government structures, we still do not understand how to activate finances to support early action. And I think proof of concept and us working together to better understand, to better visualize some of the impacts, to better finance and improve capacity for response in terms of anticipatory actions will really help us in scaling up anticipatory action within country level in Kenya, but also at regional level as ICPAC leads the way in terms of the regional level.
Great, thanks, Jemimah. I'm seeing a lot of unfamiliar faces or names in the participant list, which is really interesting because it means that we haven't necessarily connected before. So I'd really welcome anybody that's that would like to share or reflect or tell us about what you're doing in the region. It'd be really interesting to hear if there are other partners working in the region, other projects that are ongoing, anything that can be useful for this roadmap on anticipatory action in Eastern Africa that's being developed, any other reflections on working together with governments in the region, any guidance. We'd really love to hear from you, especially any of the newer actors that have joined, or if you have any general questions about anticipatory action, we also welcome those. So please feel free. Hoping to entice some more raised hands. And if not, I might invite our regional focal point, Phoebe, to perhaps reflect a bit more on her learning. Great, Phoebe, yes, please come in.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Jemimah and Dr. Ahmed on that. Mine is basically to complement with two things. I think for the Red Cross, Red Crescent, really in terms of anticipatory action, we come in more so to link up the forecasting institutions with the last mile. I'll give an example where this past Monday we actually were gladly supported by IGAD to conduct a seasonal disaster preparedness session for our national societies within the Eastern African region for the March, April, May season. And the reason for us to do this, or the aim for us to do this, is to ensure that we are trying to change the attitude of our national society from a reactive one to a proactive one. And I think once we have that change in mindset, then it will be very easy for us to actually support the scaling up of anticipatory action within the region, and of course, starting from our national societies. Also, just to mention in regards to the anticipatory action roadmap, and also I think this is a really good opportunity because it's Eastern Africa making the conversation. Just to mention that we have an interagency early warning, early action technical working group, and it would be good if some of you from the Save the Children, I've heard you talk about the different experiences you're having, to join this group that is currently being co-chaired by IGAD and supported by other organizations to talk about this conversation, the different challenges that you've talked about, be it data, be it capacity building, be it challenges, in knowledge management and all that, so that you can move this particular vehicle forward and really support the good work that IGAD is already doing through ICPAC. So just to mention that, and also to reinforce that within the Eastern Africa region, of course, we have Kenya Red Cross that's currently engaged in focus-based financing. We also have Ethiopia and Uganda and Sudan and South Sudan are coming in. So really quite some bit of activities also from the Red Cross Red Crescent side. Otherwise, a wonderful discussion, and back to you, Lydia.
Great, exciting stuff. Yeah, so many things happen. Really exciting to see this roadmap develop and get published, and continue the wonderful work of the regional Eastern Africa Working Group on Anticipatory Action. I think these are so fundamental for our growth and scaling up of anticipatory action, these collaborations. So really exciting to see all of that happening. I'm seeing a couple of additional things in the Padlet, and please do feel free to continue adding to it. So we have the Jemel Observatory link is mentioned there if anybody wants to reflect more specifically on that. And we have the link now to the HEA analysis, so thanks to Save the Children for adding that. And yeah, with I4C and the Red Cross Red Crescent, so we have some more information on that one. Great. Would anyone like to reflect? We have a couple more minutes. I only have about 5 minutes at the end that I want to share a couple of things related to the Anticipation Hub, but we still do have some time. So really welcome any questions anybody has. Now is your moment to ask Kenya Red Cross or ICPAC.
Maybe Lydia, before we open up the Q&A session, I think I have one more question for Dr. Ahmed.
Of course.
Yes. So Dr. Ahmed, what plans are in the pipeline for ICPAC in terms of collaboration on anticipatory action, and what kind of partnerships are you looking for? I know you've mentioned anticipatory hub as one of the partnerships. I see a few have been added within the Padlet, but you can tell us from the ICPAC perspective.
Thank you very much, Jemimah, again. That's very important, this partnership. I started with the hub. Yes, this is a great opportunity. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, everyone, for putting up that. It's a great platform already. As ICPAC, as a regional body, we are collaborating currently with, for instance, the World Food Programme on developing forecast-based threshold and triggers for Kenya, Djibouti, and most likely in the coming weeks or months with Uganda also, Ugandan World Food Programme Office. Our contributions are basically in defining the forecast and the threshold and triggers. We'll be working very closely with the national meteorological authorities as well as other relevant sectors like the disaster risk management and others. So this is one important collaboration we are having, again, with FRC. Phoebe is here. We have been really, brainstorming and trying to find out areas of common interest, common collaboration areas. And accordingly, we have identified anticipatory actions as one most important area. We have already developed a proposal, a joint proposal between IGAD and IFRC. Also another proposal on sustainable livelihoods, especially the climate smart agriculture. Jemimah, as you might be aware, IGAD collaborated with the Kenya Red Cross Society in prototyping a climate resilient agriculture in a very fragile and arid and semi-arid environments, how communities can cope up with recurrent droughts. So that is again another areas of collaboration with FRC. And of course, capacity, as the poll also indicated, we have realized, and again, a proposal is in place, particularly to work on capacities at national level and at institutions, particularly institutional capacity, on human resources capacity, on understanding the risk itself and developing those tools and so on. There is already a proposal there. So IFRC is another important important partner, let me call it like that. But our most important priority is now to roll out the roadmap. As you rightly said, Jemimah, it is a collaborative effort. This regional roadmap is a collaborative effort, and there are brilliant ideas really in that document. We wish to see now this rolling and trickling effects on the national level in protecting the lives and livelihoods of our communities. So this is the ongoing one. In terms of, I think we are very much open for any partnerships. Andum from Save Children, you are most welcome, and will be very much already interested when you mentioned 2, 3, 4 countries of IGAD. So that's most welcome, and with others also. I think it's very much welcome to advance this agenda of anticipatory actions to better prepare our communities, to protect them really from recurrent hazards. What is rare, Jemimah, in the past is no more rare now, like cyclones. You have heard Madagascar being hit within few weeks or maybe months, like with 4, 5 cyclones. East Africa region, we have experienced around 8 cyclones over the last 2 years. So these are really climate change impacts in front of our eyes, exactly as also confirmed by the report from IPCC just this week. We are already in, it's already upon us. It's not something that is going to bounce on us, but it's already with us. So such activities, such actions like anticipatory actions are quite instrumental. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. I know you'll be able to share with us the final copy of the roadmap so that we can also see how we can plug in. I know Kenya Red Cross will continue the partnership with ICPAC and continue sharing our learning and also learning from the experiences of the other countries within the region. Back to you, Lydia.
Great, thanks so much, Jemimah and Ahmed. This is really wonderful, and I'm really excited to hear about all of the plans and working together to overcome the different challenges, which no doubt we will overcome together. So yeah, wonderful. Thanks so much. I hope that was a really useful conversation for everyone. And please do continue to reach out to Ahmed and Jemimah. Maybe you can pop your emails or your contact detail in the chat, just in case some people aren't able to see it through the Padlet. And yeah, thank you for joining our first Anticipation Hub community conversation. So this is our first one. We're trialing it out. We have another one upcoming actually on Friday, and we really welcome partners to engage in this format and give us feedback. We want it to be really partner-led. And to discuss the things that are of interest to you, or things that you just like to have a conversation about in an informal setting. So please do get in touch. I just have a couple of other slides that I'm gonna just to highlight a couple of additional things on the Anticipation Hub that you just mightn't be fully aware of. So around our kind of exchange to facilitate exchange and learning within the Anticipation Hub. So we have a new Anticipatory Action Community Directory. So we're working on populating this now. So if you go to the Exchange tab on the Anticipation Hub website, you'll find this. And you can explore that and find different individuals who are working in different countries. So you can search for a country, you can search for a different thematic focus, different hazards, and hopefully you can find your match for these ongoing partner engagement in the different areas. There's a short little blurb on what that person can offer to the Anticipatory Action community and what they are looking for. So hopefully that can help you to find your match as well. So welcome you to go and use that, and if you haven't already added your profile as one of our partners, please get in touch and I'll make sure that we get you up there. Also, just to highlight our different working groups. So within the Anticipation Hub, we have many different working groups which are all kind of facilitating exchange and learning around different topics. So we have one focusing on conflict, one around Earth observation, which I think would be particularly interesting to many in this group. We have an upcoming one on health and anticipatory action. We have one which we co-chair together with REAP and the INSEE Resilience sectoral community around linking risk financing and anticipatory action. We have one around monitoring, learning and evaluation with START Network and the Climate Centre, and I think Save the Children are involved in that one if I remember right. And we have a protection, gender and inclusion working group which is hosted by IFRC, Plan International and UNFPA, and we'd love to get all of you engaged in those different working groups, or if you have ideas for other working groups, please do let us know. You can see the link in the Padlet to the working groups, and I think I have it in the chat as well. And just to emphasize our dialogue platform, so I imagine that many of you are familiar with these, but just in case some of you aren't, our dialogue platforms happen on a yearly basis. They happen at the global level and also at the different regional levels, and these have been really successful in bringing together many different participants, from governments to practitioners to scientists, and bringing everyone together to discuss anticipatory action around all those different thematic areas, and are facilitating a lot of content and knowledge on the Anticipation Hub. So you can see the kind of numbers we're talking about, so very high participants throughout the different events last year, and we're already planning our events for this year. So do save the date for the Africa Dialogue Platform, which will be happening from the 28th to the 30th of June, and the Global Dialogue Platform from the 6th to the 8th of December. And please do save those dates in the diaries, and look forward to sharing more information on them soon. And yeah, just to highlight that we have an Anticipation Hub newsletter, so please do join that. We send it approximately every 2 months, but could increase in frequency as well, depending on the different resources and content that's coming through. You can find all of our previous newsletters. We've disseminated 6 so far, and that goes out to a big mailing list of over 1,500 people. So please do get on that mailing list. That's also, you can find it under the Anticipation Hub Exchange tab, as well as the information about the dialogue platforms. And yeah, please do sign up to the newsletter, and then please do keep an eye on the Anticipation Hub website. So we have recent blogs, recent news, recent events, job opportunities, and so please do keep an eye on it, and also follow our social media, where we'll be sharing all the latest resources, news, updates, events, so you won't miss out on anything. And also, if you're interested in particular activities happening at the national or regional level, please do go and have a look at our global map of anticipatory action projects, and you can find out more information about what's happening in the different countries on anticipatory action. And just to give a little pitch for our next community conversation, which is happening this Friday. So the latest IPCC report came out on Monday, and we're going to be having a conversation with Dr. Erin Coughlin-de-Perez about this, about the report and what that means for anticipatory action. So we welcome you all to join that one, and you can find the link on the events page on the Anticipation Hub, and I can put it in the chat as well. And if you're interested in hosting a community conversation, we'd be very happy to hear from you. If there's something that you'd like to discuss, please do get in touch, and I'll pop my email in the chat as well. And yes, thanks again to everybody for joining, and a huge thanks to Ahmed and Jemimah for facilitating that wonderful interview and unpicking many of the different elements that are so important for scaling up anticipatory action. And we look forward to continuing the conversation with both of you and many others as we move forward. So yes, thank you again, and we do have a couple of minutes. We'll stay on the call if anybody wants to ask any additional questions or have a chat with us, and we'll be here. And if not, you are welcome to get a cup of tea before your next meeting. So thanks everyone, thanks again.